Today I'm going to be showing you the new Cambium XV2-2T outdoor Wi-Fi 6 access point. Cambium Networks has been kind enough to send this unit over to me to evaluate. This is a pre-production unit, but the insides are identical to what the actual production units are going to be. The case is essentially just missing the Cambium logo. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the product, where it's going to fit in the portfolio that Cambium has, some things to use it for, some things that it might not necessarily be the best for, talk about configuration, setup, and go through and do a little bit of outdoor testing with this unit. First off, what makes this special is that Cambium comes with a history of antenna design. They kind of started with the fixed outdoor wireless space, and so their antenna design is really best in class. And so the goal with this product, and the reason they were developing this, is that they wanted to have the longest range, easiest to deploy outdoor Wi-Fi solution to end user devices. This particular radio has a 9 dBi 5 gigahertz antenna and 5 dBi 2.4 gigahertz antenna. And while that might not seem high, what it is that it's a very well-designed antenna. And so not only is it going to be able to broadcast out to all the devices, but it's going to be able to have that sensitivity where it can come back and listen. A lot of the issues that people have with outdoor Wi-Fi is that their devices are having a hard time communicating back to the access point, and the access point is having a hard time hearing back from those individual devices. A little bit about the device. So this radio has two ports on the bottom, two Ethernet ports. One's PoE in, one's PoE out. It's got a 2.5 gigabit uplink port and a 1 gigabit 30 watt PoE out. So why does it have two ports? What's the use case? How does that work? The idea is that you can use this a couple different ways. There's the very traditional way of sending power over Ethernet and data up through a PoE injector or a PoE switch. It's kind of the most common application that people historically have done with these. But this gives you a little bit of flexibility where it can draw the higher wattage through that PoE port. It can power this radio, and then you also can have a dedicated point-to-multipoint system that's going to be providing backhaul to this device. So the idea is you have an RV park or something like that, and you don't want to run cabling all through the ground to each of your wireless access points. You can put one unlicensed 5 gigahertz point-to-multipoint access point up and draw that to a subscriber module that's hooked to this that'll provide this internet. So you could have a singular data run going up, or singular Ethernet cable going up that's just providing the power, and all of your data is being provided wirelessly to this device, and this in turn is providing your general Wi-Fi access. Cambium has a couple different products that fit this portfolio. They have a 60 gigahertz product that can do multi-gigabit. So the idea is that you have a multi-gigabit backhaul going to this, and this is a over 1 gigabit radio, so you can have true wireless to the device 1 gigabit access, which is new to this industry and kind of new in general, is that you can have these packages that go beyond the traditional 100, 200 megabits. The radio also has an integrated Bluetooth and is managed by a couple different ways. You could manage it individually just by logging into the radio, programming it that way if you choose. Cambium also has a utility called CN Maestro. It's a cloud management platform, really slick, and I'll go through that in a little bit here and show you how you would build a profile, bring these in, and completely remotely manage these to the point where you can send the radio off to a location, and all you need is the serial number and it to be online, and you can remotely provision it and program it and have a whole site up and running. In addition to that, you could also do an on-premise version of the CN Maestro if you want to have your network be offline for security and privacy reasons, or a private Wi-Fi network that doesn't have outside access. So as we're talking about this a little bit more, where does this fit in the outdoor wireless world today? The big traditional players are Aruba, Meraki, and Ruckus. Their products are all roughly over $1,000. this hits a really compelling price point. So not only is this the highest performing on paper product in the market, it's also the least expensive. When you compare just apples to apples, street pricing on this today, now keep in mind this is today, prices go up, prices go down, is $656.64. So it's about half the price of the competitors on the market. So when you're looking just A to B, it's roughly half the price. Where the compelling use case for this comes up is that your total cost of ownership is going to be drastically lower. The Cambium CN Maestro product is free, and other people charge for that. Support is free. That's not something they're going to be really nickeling and diming people on. So on a basics level, you can deploy this, manage it, and have support for no additional cost. But when we're talking about range, Cambium's claim, and this is something we're going to go test in a little bit, is that this is going to give you 2x the coverage that the next best performing wireless access point on the market can do. So if you're looking at 2x the coverage in an omnidirectional device, you're looking at 2x one way, 2x the other way, and 2x in all directions, you actually end up giving yourself 4x the amount of coverage. So the economics of this are that on paper, this device is going to be giving you 4x the coverage at half the hardware cost. So you're looking at about 1/8 the cost of a hardware deployment. And then when you factor in the not having to pay for reoccurring support and services, you're making that capital expenditure up front and you're not getting nickel and dimed in the back end. It really is a compelling product. So I'm not going to really spend too much more time talking about the device as it is. I'm going to really want to get into showing you how it works. So we're going to go and do a quick onboarding, show you a little bit about CN Maestro, how it works, very briefly. The intent of this is to show you how it's so fast, and I'm not necessarily an wireless engineer, so I'll show you how I stumble through it and how you can as well. And then we'll go do some field testing and see if the claims can be backed up on what this can actually do, and kind of draw a summary and review the data. Process of bringing the access points onto the cloud portal called CN Maestro. First step we want to do is onboard our radio. So we'll go over here and we'll claim the device, putting in our serial number. It's going to call home and make sure that the serial number is validated in Cambium system, which it does here, and it's saying success. I can go back now and go ahead and clear this out. So our next step is we want to go through a little bit of a basic configuration of this device before we approve it. So we're going to go through the configuration, basic details. We'll call this XV2 demo. And we don't really necessarily need a description at this time, but that's something you could add as an additional item. The location, I've created a couple sites here, so we'll call this the lake site, and it's going to dump it there. And if I wanted to, I could do a software update to any software load I wanted, and then the configuration of what AP group is we're going to tell it to be using. In this particular case, it's Cambium Demo. These ones are pre-created, and I'll show you in a second here a little bit about that. We can do a little bit of overrides here beyond the basics, but the most important tab here is the wireless LAN, and it's going to put this Cambium Demo wireless LAN that I've tied into that AP group on here. I'll go ahead and click Save, and we'll click Approve. And before I started this, I did default this access point, so it's going to take a minute, and it's going to be pushing down, and it's going to get that load and call home. While I do that, I'm going to do a little bit of a brief overview on CN Maestro. Get your home page here, go over to see your whole network. So you have different devices, and you can drill down to each individual device and see your devices that are offline, online, get all the colors. Kind of a nice general place to go if you're like a managed service provider, to see it all in a single pane of glass. Systems a little more drilled down, same thing, but gives you a little more details on alarms and things like that. Individual devices, I have other devices here that are offline at this time, but this is our device here that we're working through the configuration on. Our AP groups are what we're talking about, and you'd want to call these groups at the individual site, then you want to throw the group on. And what that group is doing is it's letting you know all those devices are going to have a similar or same configuration in that group. Switch groups, same way to manage the switches. You can build different profiles for different sites, or just different defaults that you can have to utilize to bring radios online quickly. And the wireless LANs, because you can have multiple wireless LANs on an individual access point, at this point you could have tying them onto it, so it's an extra layer of configuration that the Cambium's giving you here. The sites, which we've already kind of talked about, the onboarding tab, which we went through here, you get the serial number from your purchase or your receipt or the device and throw it in here. And then they do also have a full guest access portal, which you can utilize if you're doing billable Wi-Fi and things like that. They also support third-party vendors. There is an API integration that you can do if you want to do that. There is a little bit of an additional charge that they have for that. And you could also create multi-users, giving them multiple levels of configuration and control. So now that we have waited a couple seconds here, you'll see that our device is no longer in the onboarding. It's here, it's online, and we can drill down to that device, seeing what radios what channels it's on, and make every configuration that we need to. And for simplicity's sake, you'll see that here, Cambium demo is up. Less than a couple minutes, and you're good to go on that. So for the field testing portion of this, what we did is put up the XV2 on a pole and ran a iPerf test on my MacBook Pro. This is all interconnected with a gigabit switch. So the limiting factor in this is the Wi-Fi in my phone I'll be using for this test. Tried my best to find a smooth, flat road, and we'll kind of go through a little bit of the data here. The points on the test. The point here on the left is the point where I parked the vehicle and had the Wi-Fi access point. From a basis test here, I was pulling 262 megs down, 252 up to my iPhone on Wi-Fi, and just went a little bit up the road, let's say about a couple hundred feet, and was pulling 122 by 117. And then further down is kind of where I wanted this test to get a little more granular with the different houses in there and the interference and the noise floor and things like that. So the next point over here down the road, I was pulling 39 megabits and pretty good, showing full signal bars on the device the whole time. Stopped again a little bit further down the road and was pulling 33 megabits and continued on even further and was pulling at this data point here 30 megs. And at my last data point, it was starting to get a little questionable. I was losing a bar of signal, so I didn't have a full signal bar anymore. And I was around here pulling 12 megs. Really depended on where I was at, in the road on that connection. So if we do a quick measurement on this, we're looking at about 783 meters, so just under a half a mile on this. While I kind of go through and give you a reference point of how far this is, I'll show you a video on the way back that I had taken from this. I did have to spend a decent amount of time driving around to find a road that was flat enough. Looking at it from the top-down perspective on Google Earth, was more focused on trying to find areas without houses and things like that, but ended up those were pretty hilly areas. So this was, from my best efforts, finding a pretty flat road. And as you can kind of see here, we're going back through the individual testing points, and the signal is getting stronger and stronger as we return. But there are some things of note. There are a couple things that we would call like near non-line of sight. So the Fresnel zone, almost the entire way, was obstructed. These trees are here. There were cars coming and going, and as you see, these houses are passing. There's a couple internet service providers in the area, so every house had a Wi-Fi access point that seemed like it was cranked up to 11, a pretty strong point. So as we get further and further back, we're in the wheelhouse of a really, really strong connection. But I wanted to show you the whole trip back to give you a reference point of truly how far of a distance this thing can go and how mind-blowingly impressive that was. All right, so we've gone through the data. We talked a little bit about the onboarding process, and we'll have a really quick summary. The device can be deployed at 1/8 the cost of other competitors because of the extreme amount of range that it can do, and the dense and high speeds that it can do when devices are extremely close to it. kind of a no-brainer product to choose, and if you are interested in purchasing one, feel free to reach out to me or click the link below, and you'll be able to get one of those. And if you have any comments or questions, let me know how I can get better about these.